Dawn, we're back again. As you can see, all our drywall's up. This time we're going to do some good old-fashioned taping or the compound, depending who you are. Now we're going to do this the old-fashioned way. For example, I don't have stilts. You know, when you hire some of these companies, you say they'll come and they'll knock out an entire house in a few days. We're going to do this the old-fashioned way. But before we get started, I thought it'd be good to tell you a few things about this. When it comes down to taping, right, you know, it's good to have, you can use a hawk or a tray. I prefer a tray. One of the things you always want to think about is making sure your knives are very clean all the time. You know, keep trying to clean them, keep trying to clean them. Another thing is, for example, when you have a situation like this, that the room is higher than 8 feet, okay, and your sheets go on a horizontal, right? Well, then you want to put the piece that you need to in the middle. You really don't want to have a piece on top because, again, if you don't have stilts or anything, it's going to be a real nightmare to tape on top. You know, I'm not sure if this is something that's by code or anything like that. I think it's just my my personal preference because this is the way I was taught. And you'll run into a lot of things. For example, if you don't have a Dremel, you can't cut around the boxes. You have to do it the old-fashioned way. You measure it out, you get your sheetrock straw, you make your hole. And a lot of times something like this will happen where it's not perfectly cut, and when you put your piece of sheetrock, it'll blow out your sheet. Now, a lot of people will try to maybe hammer this in or do something like that. You really don't want to do that because that's going to haunt you in the future. What you want to do is just cut out the piece, you know, and then what we'll do is we'll put some compound and we'll take the bottom of that just as we would any other seam or corner. Another thing for, you see, wherever you have corners that the sheetrock is ripped away, just tear it off. You'll pass your blade over that, give it a nice little clean cut, because you're never going to be able to fix it other than that. That's really the only solution that you can do. Well, another thing, a lot of people might not know this, but sheetrock is indented on the seams. It has a dent right at the edge on both sides. So whenever two are butt up against it, this is always going to be indented as opposed to this, so that when you put your knife and your compound, you won't have a bulge, you know, it won't be sticking out, it won't be bulging out. Okay? There is no real trick. There is nothing really to teach about compound. I can teach you a few things that you'll need to know, but with this particular thing, it's all about practice.
So you don't give it like, you do light coating, so like that there won't be too much sanding?
You always see, that's the problem. A lot of people try to do too much too fast. As you can see, we already got started up there. Okay, I just put on my tape. Now, like I said, a lot of the companies that do drywall, they have certain machines that you come, they do, and you put the tape and the first coat of compound. This, you know, so what I do is I put the tape on first, wherever I'm going to tape, and then I'll come back and put the first coat over. You don't really have to have it completely dry. What you don't want to do is try to put 2 coats in one day. It's not going to work. What's going to wind up happening is you're going to wind up taking off or messing up your first coat. No matter what, this is a process that needs several hours in between each coat. Normally overnight is the best way to do it, unless you have a super, you know, heater conductor that's going to dry it up, and it's still not going to be dry because wherever it's white, it'll be dry, but wherever it's gray, that means it's still wet. So you risk the chance of messing up the job you just did. Okay? Another thing we can talk about, for example, is, as you can see, we put our space in the middle, right? But this one don't have the indentation that this one has. That really doesn't matter because, excuse me, as you can see, we're going to be using several different sized knives. we're gonna put our tape on with our 6-inch. We'll put our second coat with our 8-inch, and if necessary, we'll use a 12-inch for these seams. So I'll have tape, and my first coat will be with my 8, and then my finished coat will be with my 12. Now, when you have enough practice, you get to the point where sanding is more of a just touching up wherever there might be a lump. If you have to really get in there and sand, then you definitely did something wrong. Okay? Now, there's several little things you want to check. You want to go around and feel and make sure that all the screws or nails, depending on what you use, are, indented in the sheetrock. You don't want it sticking out, because then when you pass your blade over it, obviously you're not going to cover what you're trying to cover. Another thing here, you can see, this one seems to just stick out just a little bit more. It's not because this one's wider or it was done wrong. Again, it's because this piece that has the finished side has an indentation. And that's designed, again, for when the two meet. You have enough surface there to put your tape and you won't have a bulge. But you can, however, some people will take their blade and just kind of cut that little corner off of the sheetrock, just slice it, right? I'm doing this right-handed when I'm actually left, but you see, you just want to take that paper off. But even that's not necessary. That's if you have OCD like me, and it might bother you. But for the most part, that's about it. For example, if you take a look over here, I have a few where they wasn't in all the way, so I had to come back with my drill and drive them in a little more, and then just kind of give them a little tap to make an indentation. Okay? I guess we can get started so you can take a look and see how this goes.
So you're going to give us a demonstration?
I'm going to give you a demonstration. I'll teach you what you need to know, but again, this is mostly practice. You know what they say about Carnegie Hall, don't you?
What do they say?
Well, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? You
How?
Practice. Practice.
Practice. I love that one.
Okay? So here, let me show you. The whole trick of this is you want to put it on, right? You want to hold your blade so that you have the edge on there. Don't put on the whole thing, right? And also have something steady. This is going to be simple because the room is small. I have my bench, so I can do the whole thing and not have to get up and down the ladder. Sometimes you don't have that option. Sometimes you got to set up 2 ladders with a plank, so you don't have to keep going up and down. In this case, we're going to be okay. So what I did is I put it on the side, one side, and the side you're going to put on the wall. So you come, you put it on there. Now I'm going to flip to the other side because I'm going to come this way. Now you want to put enough, and keep in mind, we're going to take 90% of this right back off. Don't worry about anything that falls on the floor, and don't try to reuse it. Okay? It happens. See, as I'm working it, I'm trying to keep my equipment as clean as possible, because when it comes down to compound, any little speck or any little dirt is going to completely throw off your tape. You're going to wind up with a line, a groove, and it's going to drive you nuts. You don't want to pass it and then keep passing it, because I guarantee you, the more you pass it, the more you're just going to mess up. Again, we're going to put it on the side that we're going to use. Now we'll do the top. Okay? See?
So I see that you mix it a lot inside the pan.
Yes. Always, I don't know. There's some people say, you can just work it. I like to be as clean as possible. This can get really messy. So, like I said, you wanna, if it dries on this side, and it will dry, and you scrape it off and put it on the new one, now when you pass it, you're gonna wind up with a big rock or a big line in the middle. Now, let's make sure. See, we got a good coverage. Add a little more. And again, the mistake a lot of people do is they try to do too much too fast. Okay? We have our compound. Now we'll take our tape. And again, this is the old-fashioned way for those of us who don't have the fancy machines and can't afford these expensive blades that they have out there where, you know, you basically load the machine. It'll look like this, and you'll have the roll of tape in there, and you'll also have your compound in there. And you just come, pass it with this, you know, pass the stick over. It even has one where it clips it.
Oh,
and
wow.
does all this shit for you.
Nice.
But not all of us that work, you know, if we don't do this every day, you know, you're not going to spend that kind of money on a machine you're going to use once and you're better, you know. Besides, I don't mind doing it the old-fashioned way. Most of this tape comes with a seam in the middle. You just bend it down. You want to fold it. Get a clean edge to start with. You put it on. And again, this is where a lot of people make mistakes, okay? See, you don't have to go all the way to the corner. I mean, if you want to, that's fine. Some places you need to. Sheetrock might have a, you know, a damage or something there, but in a lot of instances you don't. Because once you come down with the vertical, then that's going to cover that piece, okay? Now here's where people make a big mistake, okay? You have to remove almost everything you put on.
Why is that?
Because if you don't, what happens is you wind up with by the time you're done with the third coat, you have a lot of bulkiness, a lot of waves, and then you got to break out a sanding machine, which is not what you want to do.
Okay.
This dust is a very fine dust, and I don't care how much you plastic over everything, it's just going to get everywhere.
It'll get all over the place.
So what you want to do is now remove almost all the compound you have on, especially when you're applying the tape itself. So I start in the middle, and I just kind of give it a soft, you know, see? Just a soft little, get most of it off. You know, a little bit at a time until you have, like I said, almost all of it off.
How long you been doing this?
Taping, compound, I don't know, I started when I was about 17. First job I ever did, I had to, by the time I was done, I had to break out a sander. Believe me, that's not fun, and it's not something I ever cared to repeat. So you learn real fast.
Okay.
And especially if you don't want to pass your money along to someone else, when you can do it yourself. All you gotta do is practice. See? So, clean up the edges. Now we'll do the top.
Okay, so I want to get a close-up.
Sure.
So I'm going to just climb on.
Come on up.
And so...
More the merrier. Now you
Wow,
can go
that
in any
looks so-
direction. As you can see, I have taken off more than 95% of the compound that I put back on. And you might think, well, why did you put so much in the first place? Well, we did that so we can get a good adhesion from the tape to the sheetrock. But we don't want to leave that on there. We want to take it all, as much as possible, off. And as you can see, as I'm running my blade, I'm holding it at an angle. I'm putting more pressure with my finger on the tip. I can always come back and get the rest off.
Okay. Wow.
You know, if you have some here, you can just do that. But you see how I keep cleaning my knives? See, now the corner looks a little...
So
Excuse
those
me.
corners are going to look so neat and clean.
Yeah, see
When-
how we have
once the
some left
paint-
over? So now we'll just come off and we'll take all that off. Remember, tape, there's going to be a vertical tape here too. That's why I say you don't have to worry about going all the way over. Now let's take a second and clean off the edges as nice as we can.
This powder room is going to be beautiful.
That's the goal. Now, you know, we have it, we took most of it off, as you can see. Now, when I put my second coat, I'll mix up the compound real nice so that it's very pliable. And I'll give you an example. Let's say, now that I have all my things, let's start this side where I already applied it. Let me just clean up my panel for a second. Hold that thought. Okay, we're back. I just had to clean up a little bit. Now you see, I have my tray. Most of it is on one side. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to technically apply the first coat to cover the tape. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to load our knife. With the most part that we're going to use, we're going to start at the end. Right?
You make this look so easy, but that's because you've been doing it for so long.
Yes, believe me, it looks easy, but it's not. It's practice. It's that Carnegie Hall thing again.
Right.
Okay? Now, here we go. We're gonna, one clean stroke, and we're gonna cover the tape. Now, if you mess up, don't worry about it. You'll cover it again in a second. Now, see how I got the tape? I'm just gonna clean off the edge there. And how I'm doing that, you see? I'm putting more pressure on this side than on the other side. And when I come this way, I'll do the same thing. See? Now it's there. So I'll just give it one nice clean pass. Take off any excess that we have here, and so that when it dries, we don't worry about having and that's it. See, if you take a really good little close look, you now have your first coat covering the tape without having a massive mess of compound.
Okay.
So now, this might not even need a third coat. Now, my neck, when this dries, I'll feather off the seams. And that'll be it.
Okay.
All right. This segment here has been taping with Vic. And believe me, don't be afraid. You're going to mess up. You're going to, things might not turn out the way you want them to. But you practice.
Yes.
And eventually, you get to save a lot of money. Because this can get very pricey.
Oh.
Worst off is a lot of people won't do just one room. If they do, they're going to charge you up a storm.
I didn't know people actually get on stilts to do this.
Yeah. The professionals, they use stilts. This way they don't have to be up and down the ladder.
It makes sense. Wow.
They just walk around the house, up and down, around the electric sockets, everything.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for watching, and please subscribe to Vic's channel, Vic, your friendly neighborhood carpenter.
That's me.